Moving.
I'm gonna stream the oversight committee. The oversight committee.
Well, I told you you couldn't go right now. You need to stay. And I'm all like, why are you doing this?
At an HR
doing this.
At an HR2
so I was
in
late.
codifying changes to
I know you're lying. I hate when that happens.
I'm sick. I can't.
You're in a live, or you go in a.
I'm sick. I can't.
You're in a live, or you go in a live, and it plays a different fucking live. I hate that.
Does Congress pass that bill, codified, send it to the Senate, codified, send it to the Senate, and force the Senate to make that law so that no future president can endanger the American people?
Yes, please do that. And I believe President Trump has asked you to do that.
One last question.
Trump has asked you to do that.
One last question in my 45 seconds. I'm sure the Secretary is well aware of what just occurred in Austin, Texas, a place where my family lives. A shooter went into a bar and shot up a bunch of University of Texas kids. And
do your own research on that. Don't let them do that to you.
Wearing a sweatshirt that said "Property of Allah," had a Quran in the back of his car, was wearing an Iranian flag T-shirt under the sweatshirt. That individual came to the United States in 2000, overstayed his visa, then applied to be able to have LPR status on the back of an alleged marriage. Then 6 years later got citizenship under Obama, then tried to get citizenship for two different named women, then was arrested for a hit and run in 2022. That individual is now alleged to potentially have some ties to terrorism or whatever. My question for you is, we've had so much mass immigration. Is not the president's policies on pausing certain countries' immigration a positive thing to stop that kind of stuff that we just had unfold in Austin?
I just talked about that.
Should we not statutorily pause immigration to prevent those kinds of people
Period.
from being communities of the United
Gentleman's
States?
time has expired.
Those kinds of people
Period.
from being communities of the United
Gentleman's
States.
time has expired. The Secretary can respond.
Yes, we have a real threat from countries that are sending us people that we have not thoroughly vetted. So we need to pause so I can go back and re-vet all those. Individuals, make sure that they are here and that they aren't here to do us harm. The other thing that I would say is I would recommend you would fund the Department of Homeland Security. It tells the whole world that the Democrat Party has their
$120 million, and that's off the top of my head.
They won't defend where they live, where their families live, where Americans live. They're choosing to risk the homeland, for a political point. And so I would ask that you would vote to fund this department so we can have all of our assets on the field and make sure that we're defending and protecting this country.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you,
Madam Secretary. You'll back.
Gentlelady from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Oh boy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, I come with concerns today that under your watch, the Department of Homeland Security has created a culture of chaos and fear in our American lives and endangered our constitutional liberties. I want to focus on a particular aspect of DHS's misconduct, which should concern every American, and that has to do with DHS's ever-expanding practice of labeling anyone who criticizes this administration or DHS actions as a criminal or a domestic terrorist. Time and again, we've seen this administration use the full power of the government to silence or intimidate people who disagree with it. And nowhere is that more true than with the Department of Homeland Security. When people have dared to speak out or push back, they've been assaulted or pushed back. They've been assaulted, arrested, and now even killed. But what may have flown under the radar is that over the past year, DHS has been ramping up its use of a lesser known tool known as administrative subpoenas or summons. Under your leadership, DHS has sent record numbers of these summons to tech companies like Google and Meta, Reddit, Apple, Microsoft, and Discord, demanding without legal authority or probable cause that these internet companies unmask social media accounts, and hand over the identity of the account users so that DHS can spy on them. Many of these requests have targeted accounts speaking out against
They do, Glenda. They do, Glenda.
Enforcement tactics.
They will believe whatever they are told about that.
Understand their rights or support their neighbors. This is core
But
protected.
I do want to make the point that that was an Israeli strike. So that tracks. That absolutely tracks. Because how many schools, why can't people, and I understand, but what I don't understand is how this administration can use the same rhetoric for different countries. The same thing you're hearing about Iran, is the same rhetoric you heard about Gaza. The same fucking thing.
To write postcards to
No, they won't.
officials. Postcards to
No, they won't.
officials. After he sent an email to a DHS official identified in a Washington Post article asking that the agency consider decency in its efforts to deport an Afghan refugee who'd been an ally to American troops. Your agency asked Google to conceal its request to unmask him, and then Homeland Security agents showed up at this gentleman's home to interrogate him. These are just two examples, and in neither case was there any evidence of threats or criminal activity. Now, these two American citizens were able to secure lawyers and challenge these illegal demands in court. We've seen that DHS's bad faith requests don't hold up and have been forced to withdraw these demands because they don't withstand legal scrutiny. But not every American who's targeted has the time or the wherewithal to challenge the federal government, and that is the point. These efforts to unmask the administration's opponents are clearly designed to intimidate and silence those who oppose the administration's and particularly DHS's lawless policies. So, Secretary Noem, can you tell us how many of these administrative summons DHS has issued in the past year to technology platforms seeking the identity or personal data of users who've criticized this administration and its actions?
The individuals that work at the Department of Homeland Security and specifically in investigations follow all federal laws and constitutional laws.
I understand that you may not.
Clap, y'all. She's lying.
Can you tell us how many subpoenas or administrative requests?
How many of those have been filed, and I will give
will
that
you
back to you. I
provide
do
that
not
to
know
us?
that off the top of my head. What I would say,
Can you tell me who it is that administers that program? Is there anyone who's
I don't know which department or agency you're talking about, because USCIS would do some of this. Homeland Security Investigations do some of this. Homeland Security Investigations does the vast majority of our investigations into financial fraud, into immigration fraud, into fraud when it regards to what is going on in Minneapolis.
Different agencies.
But beyond that, we also have CISA, which is our cybersecurity agency.
You have defended DHS's actions repeatedly as using legal tools, but both the
She
courts
doesn't
and
know a
DHS's
lot for
own
being in
Inspector General
charge.
have advised that DHS is misusing these tools in violation of the law and the Constitution. And that's exactly why no government agency is allowed to spy on Americans simply because they're sharing their opinions online. So I would request that you do provide that information
are not spying
to the
on
committee.
individuals. If any
It's spying on
administration
people
was
when
spying
they're
on people,
exercising their
Biden
First Amendment
administration.
rights. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
The lady yields back. The gentleman from California is recognized for 5 minutes.
Good afternoon.
5 minutes.
Good afternoon.
It's
Secretary Noem.
infuriating.
I understand you have a lot.
I
on
don't
your
know
plate
why
and have an
everybody's not mad.
extraordinarily complex job to protecting the homeland in its entirety. And as I know you understand, my job is to represent my constituents.
Period.
I did need to bring up today a few specific ways in which right now my constituents are not being well served. By your department, and see if we might be able to find a way forward. So there's a grant from one of the counties that I represent in Plumas County. It's a hazard mitigation in Plumas County. It's a hazard mitigation grant worth $2.5 million called the Plumas County Ignition Resistant Construction and Dispensable Space Project.
This is the White House press briefing that we're also going. I'm gonna need emotional support to get through that.
Fire Safe Council to mitigate no less than 64 homes in this rural fire-prone region to reduce and/or prevent physical damages to residential properties resulting from wildfires by conducting defensible space measures.
Swear to God.
And residential retrofitting to be more fire resistant. I should note this is a county that has already been struck by one of the worst wildfires in state history. So this has been through all of the approvals through Cal OES, through FEMA, and since June of last year, it's just been waiting for your signature, which I understand is a new requirement that anything over $100,000 needs the Secretary's approval.
Kai,
So,
goodbye.
Our office reached out in December of last year because there was a time issue with December 31st being the date that matching state funds were going to expire. We didn't hear back. And that deadline passed. Luckily, we got an extension from the state. So then in January, after the extension was given until February 1st, our office requested a meeting between me and you. There was not a meeting granted. Luckily, the extension of the state funds was extended until March. So in February, the grant remained unsigned. Our office has heard nothing. We've gotten no updates from the Department of Homeland Security. We've been in constant contact every week. So, do you have any idea why it is we can't get movement on this?
I don't, sir, and I'll find out for you, but I will tell you that it is not with my office. If this is a grant that has been held up, it's been held up at FEMA, and I will get to the bottom of it. What I also would say is that I do not have a requirement that I sign off on grants of $100,000. I do have a requirement on reviewing contracts because I found incredible fraud and inefficiencies and theft from American taxpayers in government contracting.
I know you're
but
lying.
grants I do not. And that fund specifically would have came out of FEMA, and I will find out and get that answer for you.
I appreciate that. Would it be possible to set up a call within the next couple weeks if we haven't had any movement?
We can figure it out here within a half hour of this committee being over.
Perfect. Because this is, I agree with you. It's very important to be vigilant with these funds, but wildfires cost a lot of money.
Oh, I understand. And we've had 60
You should
disaster
be.
declarations
It's
since
horrible.
President Trump's been in office. 41 of them major disasters. FEMA is dispersing funds.
The fact that she is in charge of FEMA is criminal. Fucking criminal.
I can't speak to other projects, and if that's true, that's great. But there's that project in my district. There's also a project with the Placer County Water Agency. They've been waiting since August of 2024 for a budget modification on a project that's necessary to keep water
They
flowing,
really do.
From the pumps there during public safety power shutoff.
Hurricane season is coming.
We've been waiting to hear since August of 2024. Is that something you might be able to look into for us?
I'll look into, and the one thing that I think is good for everyone to be aware is that in order for FEMA to disperse funds, at times there has to be invoices turned in, costs proven out in order for that matching dollar and that grant to be awarded.
But we can give them all the money for a masked Gestapo to just kidnap anybody they want.
With why that grant was created, and we're getting it back on mission. I'll look at those two.
Yeah, because they're using FEMA funds for ICE.
Make the right
If you don't think that,
if they are due and if they fit the program,
I'm sorry.
and if they aren't fraudulent.
I appreciate that, and they're not. I can assure you. And we got one more, which is in El Dorado County. This is a $25 million project. Funding has been approved. There's matching project. Funding has been approved. There's matching state funds. Covers 525 homes for high wildfire risk. They've been waiting on the NEPA approval since January of 2025. Another very important project for fire mitigation in my area.
I could talk about a lot of things, but y'all ain't ready to talk about them.
Governor Newsom and the state leaders in California for not taking the issue of fire mitigation seriously, not doing what they should. So I do feel like I need to advocate with equal force for making sure that we're doing everything we can.
Glenda, I'm glad you said that, right? Because that's exactly, it's the only logical explanation. If you're not mad, if it doesn't make you mad, if it's not bothering you in your daily life to see these things, to take them in and be okay with them, it is in fact because you supported it, you voted for it.
Testimony with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, and I also wanted to share this with you here as well. While you are taking a live look at the White House press briefing room, as we are expecting this to get underway at 1 p.m. Eastern time, I also put up a QR code on the left-hand side of your screen on our YouTube page. On our YouTube page, we are streaming Secretary Noem's testimony uninterrupted, and we invite you to scan that QR code if you continue to like to watch that as well.
I'm gonna abuse myself and watch KKK Caroline.
Secretary Noem's testimony as we await
I
the White
swear,
House press
I'm
briefing.
like a
But if you
masochist.
like to continue watching Secretary Noem's testimony, just scan that QR code. We'll be right back.
Well, now we gotta go to YouTube so that we can, yeah, and then we're just gonna have to, I think they're gonna stay here until the White House press briefing starts. And the problem with that is, they say that thing's gonna start at 1 o'clock. They won't be there until 1:30 or 2 o'clock, I promise you. Just stand there looking stupid. Let me see if I can find these on YouTube, because it's really what I want to watch. Hey, did you guys see the one representative yesterday that just, I mean, ripped her a new asshole. I mean, like, he was amazing. I'll find it and we'll watch it. Oh my God. I gave that man a standing ovation in my living room. I was so happy. Yes, and he was Republican.
Your agency filed a notice. Your agency filed a notice. You're aware of that, right? Justification and approval for other than full and open competition. Your agency made a decision not to proceed with competitive bidding. And one of the contractors that got the award was this Safe America Media Company that received $143 million.
Many
right?
vendors got the chance to look at that contract and to participate in it.
So
that is why the two of them were
that's
chosen.
inaccurate, Madam Secretary. I'll read from the notice from your agency. Given the immediate action to significantly reduce illegal immigration and border crossings, DHS identified four companies. Four of the hundreds of thousands of companies in the United States. You identified four. One of those is this Safe America Media Company. Where is Safe America Media?
Period.
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary.
Period.
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary. We can't find it. We can't find a website. We did find an address. that's registered for this company. Do you know where that address is?
Is there a problem with this contract?
I'll tell you about it.
Is there a problem with this contract?
I'll tell you about it.
According to
Madam
law,
Secretary, the
address
is registered to a political operative. Madam Secretary, the company, and then I'll give you an opportunity to respond. The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. Do you know, just by way of example, whether this company that received $143 million in taxpayer dollars, has it ever done work for the government before?
I don't.
Has it ever done work for the government before?
I don't know. I can't.
The answer is it has not. And do you know why we know that? Because it was incorporated 8 days. 8 days before this contract went out. You want the American people to believe that this is all above board? Yes, that $143 million of taxpayer money, just $1 million of taxpayer money, just happened to go to this one company.
This is what you gotta be mad about.
Federal government before, and is registered apparently or attached to a residence from a political operative. And of course, one of the subcontractors of that contract, as you know, is a political firm that's tied to you back when you were governor of South Dakota.
Wow.
The reason why I ask these questions, The reason why I ask these questions is that this is taxpayer money. And I presume, I don't know this for a fact, but Senator Tillis noted yesterday, the way in which your agency is blocking the Inspector General from 11 different investigations that it is trying to conduct. I don't know if this happens to be one of them. I certainly hope it is, because eventually the facts will become public in this regard. And there are serious laws implicated, conflict of interest laws, federal procurement laws that I believe
all
merit.
Found. All done correctly.
Believe
all
merit.
Found. All done correctly.
All done correctly.
14 billion impressions from that marketing campaign.
Sure.
It was money spent in this country and in 8 different countries that illegal migration was coming from.
Madam Secretary, Madam Secretary,
overwhelmingly effective.
We all understand the argument that you've made. That somehow this ad campaign on Fox News,
you're right.
You at Mount Rushmore has led to millions of people self-deporting. You're using millions of dollars of taxpayer money.
I can't do. That's why I'm here for emotional support. Because I'm gonna watch this shit by myself. I'm gonna lose my fucking mind.
The IG has been told repeatedly, in writing, verbally, on the phone, that he can have access to anything at the Department of Homeland Security. He can. He doesn't need my permission to come and brief members of Congress on the Hill. He just needs to provide a scoping memo, which is what every single IG gets from every single department and agency. All intelligence agencies require a scoping memo. He just hasn't done that. He wants unfettered access to every single thing in the department, and that's not the process. And that's not any other IG has demanded that.
The gentlelady from Florida is recognized for 5 minutes.
God help us.
Good afternoon, Secretary, for being with us today. I would like to take just a moment to talk about the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency at DHS. As I understand it, the mission of CISA is to lead the national effort to understand, manage, and reduce risk to our cyber and physical infrastructure. And CISA works to protect energy grids, pipelines, hospitals, financial networks, water systems.
We funded an entire genocide.
Infrastructure in the U.S.
I don't know how. Man.
Is it a correct characterization that CISA itself plays a critical role in monitoring threats against the cyber and physical infrastructure of our country and working to prevent such attacks against
it kills me.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, CISA has had billions of interactions stopping threats online from attacking not just our country, for a national security reason, but also our critical infrastructure, our electrical grids.
I find that funny, seeing how they have evidence that Jeffrey Epstein was directly involved in the right line or the radical right pipeline.
Launched a coordinated cyber attack against our domestic critical infrastructure systems. That CISA would play a lead role. In coordinating the federal response to that attack.
That is correct. CISA is charged with
No.
identifying vulnerabilities that we have in our systems, and then also recommending mitigation measures that people can take to harden their systems. So we hunt down the bad actors and harden systems to prevent those cyber attacks.
Bad actors.
Particularly right now, given the ongoing tensions in the Middle East, do you expect that Iran and its cyber proxies may actually attempt retaliatory cyber action?
You're lying. Girl, I know you ain't got the ads on, Fox. Fox has ads on YouTube? Are you fucking serious?
2/3 of that agency is not in the office because
they need the money, boy.
Not to fund the Department of Homeland Security.
Money, boy.
Not to fund the Department of Homeland Security.
So there are components of the Department of Homeland Security and CISA specifically, as we've been discussing, that are dedicated to protecting the critical infrastructure of our country. A substantial portion of those staff right now are furloughed because Democrats have refused to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Is that right?
That is correct.
Secretary, does CISA also have a role in protecting our nation's elections infrastructure?
Yes, the agency and the department is charged with protecting critical infrastructure, and elections are deemed critical.
Please pay attention to that.
You touched on something a moment ago that is also particularly important as it relates to elections.
Because do you know what that means? And it's already, do you know there's but sometimes I can't. Hold on. Do you know what they're talking? Do you know what they're talking about now is the same thing Trump was doing with that executive order to declare a national emergency around elections, and then have ICE officers around all the polling places.
Who are charged with running elections. And letting them know where those vulnerabilities are. We can give them mitigation measures that can be taken to help protect those systems, and what else they could do as far as recommendations on after elections doing auditing as well to ensure that if
we're cooked. We are fucking cooked.
Be involved in hacking or corruption, that they have the ability to audit their election afterwards to ensure that it was accurate and that American citizens had their ballots counted.
I'm done.
Are these
American citizens had their ballots counted.
I'm done.
Are these efforts
I can't.
by CISA also being negatively affected due to the shutdown of funding to your department at this time?
Yes, everything at the department's being affected right now. We have over 100,000 employees who are furloughed. We've got even law enforcement officers, security officers. TSA is not funded. Those individuals are showing.
A lot of people were showing up at the polls and finding that their voter registration was compromised, that it wasn't the right address, or it wasn't. Yes, why do you think they passed the SAVE Act? Do you know how hard it's going to be for married women to vote? If you don't have your fucking passport, I screamed about that fucking SAVE Act. Days. Read it. Pay attention to it. For fuck's sake, what are we doing? And then how many fucking Democrats voted for the SAVE Act? I don't know how many times I have to tell you that both sides are bad. Nobody in this administration is working for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Only yields back. The Unanimous consent. Gentlelady from Pennsylvania.
Thank you. I'd seek unanimous consent to introduce an article from the Washington Post dated February 3rd, 2026. Dated February 3rd, 2026. Homeland Security is targeting Americans with this secretive legal weapon.
Objection.
Also, an article from the New York Times, February 13th, 2026. Homeland Security wants social media sites to expose anti-ICE accounts.
Period.
And finally, a report from November.
But she didn't know anything about that.
General of
Are
Department.
you anything about that?
General of Department.
Are you
of Homeland
fucking
Security.
nuts?
Management alerts CBP's use of examination and summons authority under 19 U.S.C. Section 1509.
Objection.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. Objection.
Thank
you, members. Recognized.
Do you know how many times this woman perjured herself yesterday? Countless.
November 14, 2025, titled "Firm Tied to Kristi Noem Secretly Got Money from $220 million DHS ad contracts."
Objection. Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Noem, you claim that you are going after the worst of the worst. If you were doing that, I would really be cheering you on, but this simply isn't the case. That's false. Rodney Taylor, who is incarcerated at Stewart Detention Center in Georgia, is a prime example. He's 47 years old and works as a barber. When he was 2, he was brought to this country legally on a medical visa to address his extensive disabilities. He needed a medical care for deformed left right foot and 3 fingers missing on his right hand. Rodney has had 16 different operations and has been a double amputee since the age of 10 years old. Rodney received a criminal conviction when he was 17, nearly 30 years ago. However, Rodney was pardoned by the state of Georgia by Republican Governor Sonny Perdue. And since then, Rodney has lived a law-abiding life. And has a green card application that's now pending. And no administration, including the first Trump administration, has sought to remove Rodney from this country. In January 2025, he entered ICE detention, and his health has deteriorated quickly since then. Rodney has experienced several health challenges, including bone spurs in his back, causing severe pain. Rodney sought medical care multiple times while detained, but was rejected. He is unable to use a wheelchair because his right hand only has 1 full finger, making it impossible for him to push it. He's unable to walk on his prosthetic legs because he's lost 20 pounds. The worst of the worst. On top of this, he's at the mercy of other detainees just to get food, since he can't get himself to and from the cafeteria. Rodney's disabilities make it nearly impossible for him to shower. He went 6 days without showering because the detention center lacked the appropriate medical equipment. When he finally got a shower stool, he found moldy showers covered in feces and bodily fluids. Just yesterday, he was threatened with disciplinary action if he tries to use that shower stool. Rodney must crawl through that muck and squalor of feces and bodily fluids to enter and exit the shower. Wow. This is despicable. It's inhumane torture that no person should have to endure. And today, we have Rodney's wife, Mildred Donis Taylor, and her daughters. Please stand. Who are United States citizens? Secretary Noem, can you honestly tell Rodney's wife and family and the American people that are watching that these cruel and unusual conditions are acceptable under your watch?
I'm not familiar with this. Case.
Not familiar. Same thing. I'm not familiar.
center where Rodney is at is held to the same standards as all our federal detention standards, which are the highest in the nation, overwhelmingly in comparison to other detaining facilities at the local or state level. The other thing that I would say,
I'm reclaiming my time.
is that at any point, Rodney,
Did you just hear?
is that at any point, Rodney,
Did you just hear me? What I
has an
described?
opportunity
Did
to
you
leave
just
that
hear what
detention
I described? He has to crawl through mold and feces and bodily fluids just to take a shower. He can't even get medical care.
Every
This
one
is
of our
absolute
detainees,
lunacy, and you know it.
every one of our detainees gets medical care.
Reclaiming my reclaiming my time, reclaiming my time. Ranking Member Jayapal, myself, and 20 of my colleagues, we wrote to you about Rodney's treatment more than 2 weeks ago. Yes or no? Have you actually read the letter?
No, I have not heard of this case, so
I have the letter right here. And would you like to read it? Because I'm more than happy to bring a staff member down to it. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I will look into the case.
So then, if you're going to look into the case, can you tell us how long it'll be before we actually get a response from you? Maybe 2 weeks?
No, I'll get you a response.
Maybe 2 weeks?
No, I'll get you a response.
Because
get the information.
No.
you deserve an answer, and Rodney's family definitely deserves an answer, because this is inhumane treatment. And this leads me to believe that there are so many other detainees that are being
Period.
exactly the same way.
Children living in those conditions.
His wife and this committee and the American people that you will review. You've said that, but I want you to make a formal promise that you will review Rodney's case. And provide a thorough response on whether it's in the public interest to keep him in these conditions. And we'd like to know within the next 2 weeks. Are you telling me within the next 2 weeks?
I will review this.
Telling me within the next 2 weeks.
I will review this case.
Good.
And response back
Good.
to you.
I will be following
But
up
she
with
don't.
you as much as it possibly takes.
I do want you
Rodney
to know, Mr.
is
Chairman,
not the
if I may
worst
say,
of the worst. I reclaim my time. Of the worst. I reclaim my time. Rodney's not the worst of the worst. This is truly a miscarriage of justice. And I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back.
All right, we're gonna check. I want to see if the White House press briefing. is. No, told you. I thought you said you were coming back with that, Fox.
review this case.
Good.
And response
she went
back to
back
you. This case.
Good.
And response
she went
back
back
to
to
you.
I will be following up
Rodney's
with
family.
you as much as it possibly takes.
I do want you to know,
Rodney
Mr.
is
Chairman,
not the
if I may
worst
say,
of the worst. I reclaim my time. Rodney's not the worst of the worst. Rodney's not the worst of the worst. This is truly a miscarriage of justice. And I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentlelady from Wyoming is recognized.
Secretary Noem, I want to go a little
Yep.
bit different route here on some issues.
They don't care. They clap for it. They want those conditions as inhumane as they can possibly be.
Sugar beet farmers are important for Wyoming's economy and the economies of so many other states. Unfortunately, foreign entities are circumventing our laws to bring in sugar and displace these hardworking farmers. I know that there is a Section 1516 petition in front of the CBP right now challenging these imports. And would you please commit to us today to quickly addressing this petition to ensure that our laws and trade agreements are being enforced?
yeah, I will look at that.
Thank you. Under the leadership of the House Judiciary Committee, this Congress is proposing decisive action to punish sanctuary cities and states for their illegal actions. Because the reality is that these so-called sanctuary jurisdictions should not be receiving the benefits of federal policies and programs while they are actively, intentionally, and publicly violating federal law. The Department of Commerce estimates that over 1.1 million foreign college students contribute over $50 billion annually to the communities where they attend school. The states receiving the majority of this benefit from the federal student visa program are sanctuary states such as California, New York, Massachusetts, and Illinois. It is ridiculous for these sanctuary jurisdictions to profit from the legal immigration system while aiding illegal immigration. Secretary Noem, understanding that the student visa program is jointly run by DHS along with the State Department, have you considered applying scrutiny over student visas for students seeking to attend schools located within sanctuary jurisdictions?
Yes, we are, and we're using the SEVIS program to do a lot of that work and partnership with the Department of State. I would say that the Department of Education has been very helpful as well in working with these universities and colleges to ensure that they recognize the benefits, of being a student here in this country, being here on a visa, that it is a privilege that is afforded to those individuals, and that the cities in which they're located in. I want to say this about the guy that lady just talked about, that is completely disabled, right? And being considered a threat to this country. The worst of the worst. He doesn't even have fingers, but can be considered a threat. He's not even mobile and is being considered a threat, which brings me back to the American citizen they drug out of his house after they battle rammed the door, right? And drug him out in his underwear in below zero temperatures. He offered them his ID over and over again, and they refused to look at it. They then put him in a van, drove him around for hours, because they knew what they did was wrong. Man.
Doing the same for approximately 17,000 non-domiciled CDLs. Unfortunately, these actions have tragically cost countless American lives, with many others being critically injured, including that beautiful young woman who just left the room. Secretary Noem, can you speak to how your department has partnered with the Department of Transportation and state and local law enforcement to help catch illegal alien truck drivers?
Yeah, it's been a great partnership to help get this public safety.
This is propaganda. I refuse to listen to it. I can't. Hey, Zap Black, did you happen to watch the outcomes of the Texas elections? I missed that. I don't know who won. Oh, there's still okay. I told you that shit don't never start on time.
They're on public assistance when they come because they've been facilitated in. They don't pay taxes, and then they can undercut American workers for jobs. What else I would say is that we work with our local and state law enforcement where we can to do interdictions on our roads to get as many of them off the road as soon as possible. I know the state of Indiana lost 6 people in just a very short period of time from these drivers killing innocent Americans and civilians.
I'll just give you some stats from the state of Wyoming. The least populated state in the nation. Earlier this year, the Laramie County Sheriff's Office led a 3-day operation with support.
Go figure, she's from fucking Wyoming.
Trucks being stopped, 32 illegal immigrants arrested, and 51 tickets being written. How important are these types of federal-state partnerships to your operations when it comes to removing these dangerous actors from our roadways?
Oh, they're very incredible because the state and local law enforcement know how to make these operations.
She's enabling this. That's what you guys gotta realize. This bitch here from Wyoming is enabling all the behavior from this bitch.
Unanimous consent request, since Secretary Noem claims not to be familiar enough with this case. From March 2025, a CNN article covering Rodney's story. From June 2025, a Fox article titled Protests as ICE Detains Disabled Atlanta Barber Despite State Pardon, covering Rodney's story. An article from September 2025 titled Detained by ICE, Gwinnett Barber with Amputated Legs petitions for release. And lastly, I'd like to also submit the letter that Ranking Member Job Hall, myself, and all of our colleagues sent to Secretary Noem in February.
Without objection, the gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, Hurricane Helene tore through western North Carolina almost a year and a half ago, killing more than 100 people and causing more than $60 billion of damage. 2 months later, Congress passed a bipartisan disaster package, which included $29 billion for FEMA Disaster Relief Fund, covering several states. And yet, despite this, countless North Carolinians have spent 2 winters paying mortgages and taxes on homes that are unlivable and may not even exist anymore.
Period.
They have been waiting in limbo for your department to sign off on recovery funding. And I know Representative Kiley raised...
Guys, I'm telling you, hurricane season's coming. You think you're gonna get relief? Hey, Amanda K. You think you're gonna get relief? Hey, Amanda K. You think you're gonna get relief from this, from her? Girl.
With the expectation that they would swiftly be reimbursed, by the federal government. And yet, many of these counties have not been reimbursed until this week, but we'll get to that. Meaning that they have had to use all their money.
Amanda K., I shared my earlier live to you. It was pretty eventful.
Other public services, health care, and everything else. And I have met with some of the county executives who have struggled with their budgets while recovering from Helene. These delays in paying out this desperately needed recovery funds are simply...
Oh yeah, it was kind of crazy.
And you heard that from my Republican senator.
Petty was losing his shit.
Yesterday. Your new policy, and it is a new policy, requiring your personal sign-off on expenditures over $100,000 has contributed to many of these delays, creating a bottleneck, blocking reimbursement for hundreds of millions of dollars of disaster funding that stand directly between North Carolinians and that relief. In fact, Senator Tillis, as I'm sure you remember, lambasted you and the failure of your...
As it should be, Alyssa, as it should be. It makes me happy when people come in here and say, that they're mad about it, because valid.
To have a U.S. senator or a representative or another representative come to you directly to get you to do your job. But we also know that you had time to sign off on the purchase of 2 luxury private Gulfstream jets for your personal travel, $170 million.
What?
And we've heard about the new Boeing 737 that you're in the process of outfitting.
What?
Evidently, you were satisfied that there was no fraud, waste, and abuse involved in the jets. But meanwhile, could you tell me whether you found any fraud, waste, or abuse in these North Carolina expenditures?
You know, Congresswoman, what I would tell you is that...
Yeah, that's what we're waiting for too, Alyssa.
I asked you...
Yeah, I did, but I'm not sad about that. I don't like, well, I'll tell you why she lost, how I feel. That woman wouldn't take a hard enough stance against Israel. Too flip-floppy, and that's what people, and that's what people got to understand.
Until my senator
President
berates you in public to approve this money. Individual members of Congress should not have to come to you. Congress should not have to come to you. Our counties, our struggling counties in the western part of the state, are some of the most rural counties. They are poor counties. They do not have the money.
We have
to
deployed
not have the money.
We have
to
deployed
front
billions
for you.
In the months that we have been here, we have deployed billions.
W. That means shut the fuck up. That means shut the fuck up.
I have heard this from Republican county commissioners.
Reclaiming her time.
I have heard this from administrators. I have been in the western part of the state. I know exactly what's going on, and you have turned a blind eye while you're busy trying to deport American citizens. And now I want to get back reclaiming my time. To the
Shut the fuck up.
point that Senator Tillis made.
Yes.
You have not responded to him and the people of North Carolina about why you have picked up U.S. citizens. You've heard that. From Representative Correa. Why you have
She's mad.
People who are here lawfully, and why you are threatening the economy, of one of the most prosperous states in this country by practicing malpractice. You should resign or be impeached.
Period.
The state of North Carolina has received billions more in Helene relief disaster assistance than President Biden did. In fact, every single
because we appropriated the money.
Every project has been
yielded back.
Obligated. It's been paid out. The state manages the response, and those counties get their funding from the state, which has been allocated the FEMA dollars.
The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
All right, so I did want to pivot to this as we see Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
Under the leadership of President Donald J. Trump, the rogue Iranian terrorist
I'll try not to scream.
Absolutely crushed. 47 years of tolerating and enabling the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism are over. Iran's murderous terrorist leaders are paying for their crimes against America, and they are paying in blood. Since 1979,
They're blocked, Amanda
the
K.
terrorist Iranian regime has actively and intentionally facilitated the killings of Americans. They chant death to America and fund other radical terrorists who attack our country and are seeking to destroy Western civilization.
If you guys believe this, I feel bad for you.
Seized our embassy and took 66 Americans hostage in Tehran. They slaughtered 241 U.S. service members with a truck bombing in Beirut. They killed and maimed hundreds of American service members.
Iran has a right to defend itself.
Of their blood-soaked record. Prior leaders have been too weak and ineffective to address this threat. Some, like Barack Hussein Obama, even sent pallets of cash that ultimately
That's racism.
Crusade against the United States and our people, while signing stupid and naive deals that put Iran on the path of developing nuclear bombs. After years of endless appeasement and empty statements from politicians on both sides of the political aisle in this town, President Trump is finally the man of action. President Trump is holding these monsters accountable.
It's racism.
It's racism. Permanently extinguishing their nuclear ambitions. Future generations of Americans will look to this moment as the moment where the specter of a nuclear armed Iran ended.
At the beginning of Operation Epic Fury, launched last weekend, President Trump laid out clear objectives to the American people on what the U.S. military seeks to accomplish through these major combat operations. Number one, destroy the regime's deadly ballistic missiles and completely raise their missile industry to the ground. Number two, annihilate the Iranian regime's navy. And so far, we have destroyed more than 20 Iranian ships, including their top submarine last night, using a torpedo for the first time since World War II.
This excites her, y'all.
There's not a single Iranian ship underway in the Arabian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, or the Gulf of Oman. Number three, Operation Epic Fury will ensure the regime's terrorist proxies in the region can no longer destabilize the region or the free world and attack our armed forces.
They weren't.
And thus far,
they weren't going to do any of that.
Putting up a fight. Number four, this mission will guarantee that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. It's safe to say that thus far, Operation Epic Fury has been a resounding success. American forces have struck more than 2,000 targets, destroying hundreds and hundreds of ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones. As the Department of War said this morning, we expect to have complete and total dominance over Iranian airspace in the coming hours, clearing the skies for our brave warriors to continue achieving these noble and long sought after objectives. There's been a lot of misreporting and intellectual dishonesty from the American media on why President Trump decided to launch this operation. So let me remind you, Operation Midnight Hammer, which took place last June, obliterated Iran's three...
Then why are we there?
Yet the terrorist Iranian regime has remained fully committed to rebuilding.
Wow. They'll make you believe that.
Because Iran has pursued this path of war and violence despite President Trump dispatching two of his top and most trusted negotiators to engage in exhaustive and good faith negotiations to try and reach a deal. And the world knows this president's preference is always peace and diplomacy first. Look no further than the 8 additional global conflicts he has ended in the past year.
None.
Unfortunately, the terrorist Iranian regime refused to negotiate in good faith. They chose this path of violence and destruction, and they are reaping the consequences of their horrible decision. The regime did what they always have done. They lied, they delayed, they tried to string the United States of America along. They wanted to buy themselves time to continue building ballistic missiles and other deadly weaponry that could harm our U.S. personnel and troops in the region, and to continue aggressively pursuing their unacceptable nuclear ambitions. U.S. negotiators offered to lift crippling sanctions on Iran and even provide nuclear fuel to Iran at no cost to support a civil nuclear power program. They additionally had the opportunity to accept U.S. support as an investor in potential projects to develop peaceful nuclear energy together under a mutually agreed upon framework. Yet in response, Iran would have to forfeit their enrichment capacity once and for all. But Iran rejected. They accepted none of these and unprecedented offers.
That's a whole lie.
Simply put,
oh my fucking God.
To peace. And their refusal made clear that their number one priority was building a nuclear weapon with which to threaten the United States of America.
Lies.
Again, the country they have been chanting death to for nearly 5 decades. Let me state this again clearly. Iran rejected the path of peace because the terrorists in charge of this regime wanted to build nuclear weapons to use against Americans and our allies. President Trump made the determination a courageous determination and decision
that the path the United States was on with Iran had only one outcome: massive death and destruction at the hands of a nuclear-armed terroristic regime. That path of death and destruction and threats against the American people have ended with Operation Epic Fury. Operation Epic Fury has forged a new path that will better ensure the security of the United States and our people. The terrorists made a bet that President Trump would be like many of his predecessors, that he would just talk and he would refuse to enforce his clear red lines. But that has proven to be a catastrophic error in judgment. When President Trump makes a threat, and I have reiterated that threat many times from this podium to all of you over the past year, President Trump does not bluff. The president's words are backed up by the mightiest warriors in the world, who possess the most sophisticated
But they don't support.
this world has ever known.
They call them warriors, but they don't treat them that way. That's crazy.
The Supreme Leader have already been wiped off the face of the earth. Make no mistake, killing these brutal terrorists is good for America and makes the world a much safer place. I want to also extend our prayers and condolences to the families of the 6 U.S. military service members who have been lost in Operation Epic Fury. These heroes represent the very best among us. They laid down their lives in defense of our country, and we will never forget their legacy or their sacrifice. As the president said, we grieve for these American patriots and their families as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. President Trump intends to attend the dignified transfer of these American heroes to stand in grief alongside their families.
I didn't see that.
I understand the Department of War is working on scheduling this transfer, and we will provide updates at the appropriate time. Finally, the Trump administration is also doing everything within our power to protect Americans in harm's way. Since the launch of Operation Epic Fury, more than 17,500 Americans have safely returned home from the Middle East, with over 8,500 American citizens returning home to the United States just yesterday alone. If you are a U.S. citizen in the Middle East looking to return to the United States, the Secretary of State asks that you please register with the State Department at step.state.gov. The State Department will identify where you are and provide travel options directly to you. The administration is already rapidly chartering flights free of charge and booking commercial options, which we expect to become increasingly available as time goes on and the success of this mission further comes to fruition. I know the President and Secretary of State Rubio have been in touch as well with our allies in the region directly about this problem, making it clear that it is a priority of the United States of America to bring every American home. The Trump administration will not rest until every American is home safely and until the terrorist threat.
He's resting just fine.
Destroyed. With that, I'll take your questions. Eric,
sleeping like a baby.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here. As you mentioned, Iran's regime, its leadership has largely been decimated. Do we have a sense right now?
Is she dressed like a pilgrim today?
In Iran, and we're also hearing reports that the Supreme Leader's son may be named his successor. Do you have any more information about that? I just had a quick follow-up as well.
Sure. We've seen those reports as well, of course, and this is something that our intelligence agencies are closely monitoring and looking at. The truth is, we'll have to wait and see. The president has said repeatedly that the objectives of Operation Epic Fury are the 4 military objectives that I laid out for you previously: to destroy Iran's navy, to destroy their ballistic missile capacity, to ensure their proxies in the region can no longer harm Americans, and to also ensure that they can never obtain a nuclear weapon. As for what comes next for Iran, the president has said, of course, course, it's a good thing for the United States to want freedom for the Iranian people, and ultimately we hope that freedom rests in their hands.
Caroline, we see the Arab and Muslim nations coming under fire as well. President Trump's vision for the region has been to bring the Arab and Muslim nations to the table together. Abraham Accords, obviously, with Israel. If this regime topples, could we see a new day in the region and really a new Middle East come out of this when the dust settles?
Well, the greatest deterrent to true and long-lasting peace in the Middle East has always been the rogue Iranian terrorist regime and our Arab terrorist regime. And our Arab and Gulf partners in the nation admit that, as well as, of course, our close friend and ally Israel. We have seen all of the Arab partners in the region come together. During this time on the phone with President Trump, many of them commending him for this bold and brave action to protect American troops and our bases in the region that are exposed, and many of in many of these Arab and Gulf states. And I know that many of these regional partners
That's a novel idea, Glenda.
Defense capabilities as well. Jordan, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and the president continually continues to be engaged with all of them. Welcome. Garrett.
Also, too, if you'll humor me. Axios, I think, was the first to report this morning this phone call between the president and Prime Minister Netanyahu, saying that Netanyahu had given the U.S. this information about where the Ayatollah would be and that he'd be with his deputies on Saturday. How important was that information in the president making the decision to strike where and when he did?
I think it was important with respect to the timeline, but I think the president, prior to that phone call, had a good feeling that the Iranian regime was going to strike. The United States assets.
He had a good feeling. We're at war because he had a good feeling.
Military and our capabilities to strike
This is
first,
wild.
to take out this threat that has been threatening our country and our people for 47 years, or is he going to, as commander-in-chief, sit back and watch as the rogue Iranian regime attacks our people in the region? That's obviously an unacceptable decision. For the second choice there is unacceptable to the president, which is why he made this decision. As for where the Ayatollah was going to be, that obviously had an impact on the timeline of the operation, but not quite the president's decision in its entirety.
And then on the way the public is viewing this, we were sitting here last week. I asked you if the president was going to make this a big part of the State of the Union, if he felt like he had to sell the possibility that he'd do strikes like this. We're now 5 days on. He hasn't done kind of the traditional speech to the nation part of it. Does the president believe the country supports the actions that he's taken so far in Iran?
I think he does, and I think the president knows the country is smart enough to read past many of the fake news headlines produced by people in this room, that this action was unjustifiable. Again, this is a rogue terrorist regime that has been threatening the United States, our allies, and our people for 47 years.
I know you're lying.
Smart enough to know that, and they've also
propaganda.
The president himself, not just over the past year in this second term, but during his first term as president, and also for the past 40 years of his life. This is a president who has been remarkably consistent on this issue, that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. And the president tried.
But we wiped out their nuclear capabilities last June. They contradict themselves constantly.
That peace was not a pursuable path. The Iranian regime, they want death, they want destruction, they want to kill Americans, and that's unacceptable to this president. It's intolerable to him as commander-in-chief. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. Obviously seen the update from the State Department on the 17,500 Americans that have already come back, including some 8,000 just yesterday. There are still 6,000 that are looking to get out, as I understand it. And just in the context of what you just told Garrett about the president's decision on a timeline, if he had decided to do this strike before receiving, the specific intelligence about the meeting on Saturday, should there have been more done in
Now
advance of the
it's
strikes to try
bad.
to get those Americans in the region,
Bad.
resources and information to get home before day 3 of the war.
There was many signs put out by the State Department, and I wish that everyone in this room would report on. And I wish that everyone in this room would report on them. The Secretary of State issued level 4 travel advisories dating back to January for many of these countries in the region. On January 14th, the U.S. mission to Saudi Arabia advised personnel and Americans to exercise increased caution and limit non-essential travel to any military installations. On February 11th, the U.S. Department of State Consular Affairs shared a list of countries with level 4 do not travel advisories. You can't be much more clear than that. Do not travel to these following countries. On February 23rd, the U.S. Embassy in Lebanon ordered non-emergency government personnel and family members to leave Lebanon due to safety risks, and we helped them do that. On March 2nd, the State Department urged U.S. citizens to depart Lebanon immediately. With respect to Iran, on February 27th, the Secretary designated Iran as a state of sponsor of wrongful detention and stated no American should travel to Iran for any reason. And again, on February 27th, the U.S. Ambassador to Israel warned Americans to leave Iran, and they provided travel advisory alerts through the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. So the State Department was all hands on deck on advising extreme caution and do not travel alerts to Americans in the region. With respect to the Americans who are still in the region now, again, the State Department is asking that they register at the website so they can directly identify you, and we are actively and rapidly working to charter flights. There is some commercial flights that are taking off intermittently from these countries, and we plan to get Americans on board as quickly as possible. Again, free of charge to them. And we have some additional measures that I think will be announced in the coming days. Again, I can also reiterate from the president's perspective, this is something he's brought up directly with our allies and partners in the region, that we expect their help in getting Americans home, and we will do that, and we will not rest until every single American is returned home safely.
You'll rest just fine. You'll rest just fine.
How people might be experiencing this at home. With respect to the economy and the cost of oil spiking, is there a need to start
Amen,
those Navy
Glenda.
escorts in the Strait of Hormuz now to sort of blunt the impact to people? And also, because Spain is a member of the EU, does that at all put a wrinkle in the president's plan for a trade embargo with them?
With respect to Spain, I think they heard the president's message yesterday loud and clear, and it's my understanding over the past several hours they've agreed to cooperate with the U.S. military, and so I know that the U.S. military is coordinating with their counterparts in Spain. But the president expects all of our European allies, of course, to cooperate in this long sought-after mission, not just for the United States but also for Europe, to crush the rogue Iranian regime that, again, not only threatens America but also threatens our European allies as well.
Oh my God.
With respect to oil prices and the economy here at home, of course, this is something that Secretary Bessent, Secretary Wright, the National Economic Council of Energy, that is led by Secretary Burgum, has been long working on and well in advance. Yesterday, President Trump announced the U.S. Development Finance Corporation will provide political risk insurance at a very reasonable price for crude carriers and cargo ships operating in and around the Gulf. And as you pointed out, Jackie, the president said, if necessary and when appropriate, the U.S. Navy will begin escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. I think it speaks to why this action was so necessary, that ultimately the energy industry is going to benefit from the president's actions with respect to Iran, because Iran will no longer be controlling the Strait of Hormuz and restricting the free flow of energy, which, as you all know, controls 20% of the world's global oil supply. Thank you. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. The president said yesterday there wasn't time.
She just told you right there. Unbelievable.
the president has been of the chaotic evacuation from Afghanistan by the last administration 5 years ago, why wasn't there more of a focus on evacuation plans from the Middle East that could have been at least put in place, ready to go before the strikes this weekend?
Again, I just laid out for you that there have been plans in place and that the State Department has been very clear to the American people traveling within this region not to travel to these regions. We gave notices to leave immediately the countries where these Americans were within. And unlike the previous administration, we actually have a number. We actually have identified the number of people in the region who have requested help. We are in direct contact and engagement with them. And you have to keep in mind, there's a few thousand people who have requested assistance to come home in comparison to the millions who we understand are in the region. So we will help every single American who wants to come home if they're making that request of the State Department.
Americans who called the State Department hotline as recently as last night were being told, we can't help you. You have to make your own plans.
I knew it.
Updated, and I expect every single person in this room to report on that accurately, so that information can be relayed appropriately to your audiences and to the American people. I think as journalists, you all have a responsibility.
I knew she was lying. I knew that free of charge. We're getting everybody out. I knew that was a lie.
I saw many people in this room very quick to do selfie videos with the line yesterday, but not so quick to report on the corrected message today. So that is something the administration quickly worked to address, and we have fixed that problem. However, we're also pointing to people to the website, again, to register so that we know exactly where you are.
They're going to, and then when you don't get it, they're going to blame it on you.
There are chartered flights moving into that area. We can get Americans on planes as quickly as possible.
Do you have any details on how many charter flights have been able to get out of the region so far with Americans?
Look how mad she's getting.
Count for you, but I know that we're working on
because she's lying.
We were doing it yesterday.
She's lying.
We were doing it yesterday. We're doing it again today, and you should not expect us to detail exactly when these flights are taking off for obvious reasons. The Iranians have shown that they are not going to hesitate to target civilians in the region, which is
that's you and Israel targeting civilians.
Broadcasting when flights full of Americans are going to be taking off, obviously. Danny.
At the top there, you said that the Iranian regime is being absolutely crushed. Can you explicitly say then whether or not regime change is a goal of President Trump's operation?
The goals of this operation have been made very clear, Danny, and the president has said them in his speech when he launched this operation and released that video in the middle of the night to all of you and to the world. The stated military objectives of Operation Epic Fury are as follows: eliminate Iran's ballistic missile threat, destroy their naval capability, disrupt missile and drone production infrastructure, sever their pathway and end their pathway to nuclear weapons. And I can report, as you all saw from the Pentagon today, that thus far this operation has been
all while posing no imminent threat to this country. Please understand that. If you don't understand anything else, all of those things happened when they did not pose an imminent threat here at all. This is wild.
Were described nearly as twice the scale of the 2003 shock and awe campaign, and we've seen that the enemy, the Iranian rogue regime, their retaliatory strikes against the United States and the threat reduction has reduced significantly. If you look at the Iranian ballistic missile launches, they're down 86% from day one levels. So while the United States military continues to increase its complete dominance over this rogue regime, they are weakening day by day.
Regime change is not a phrase that you would want to use.
Again, Operation Epic Fury, I just detailed the goals and objectives consequences of this very quickly. But obviously, as the president has said numerous times, do we want to see Iran being led by a rogue terrorist regime? No, of course not. So any day the United States of America is taking out a terrorist is a good day for our country and a good day for our people.
So given that point that you just make about the United States wouldn't mind seeing the government overthrown, certainly President Trump has talked about wanting to see Iranians overthrow the government. Has the president considered at all kind of how he views the U.S. role, if any, in Iran post-conflict?
I think it's something the president is actively considering, and discussing with his advisors and his national security team. But again, right now, the focus, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, is on ensuring the quick and effective success of Operation Epic Fury.
Sure,
go ahead.
I want to ask you about the U.S. munitions stockpile.
I don't even know who's speaking because I wasn't looking at you. You can ask a question and then I'll go to you.
I want to ask you about the U.S. munitions stockpile. President Trump posted on Truth Social on Monday that the U.S. still has a good supply of weapons, but that we're not where we need to be. What does he mean by that? And does President Trump then want to ask on Congress to pass a supplemental to increase funding for missile interceptor systems like the ones being used to defend U.S. bases in the Middle East from Iranian missiles?
I don't have any updates for you on congressional asks from the president. As you know, under this president, we have significantly increased our defense budget, which is a good thing for the United States, for our national security, and for protecting our homeland. With respect to munitions, ammunition, weapon stockpiles, the United States of America has more than enough capability to not only successfully execute Operation Epic Fury, but to go much further. And we have weapon stockpiles in places that many people in this world don't even know about. However, the president in that post was pointing out that unfortunately, we had a very stupid and incompetent leader in this White House for 4 years who gave away many of our best weapons for nothing, for free, to another country very far away by the name of Ukraine. So the president was pointing out how that was an unwise decision, but nevertheless, don't doubt the strength and the might of the American military. And I will also add, President Trump has rightfully been calling on defense contractors.
I gotta call that out. I want you to know that was a complete lie. Do you know how many weapons we gave Israel for Gaza? Things they did not have access to, that they could not have carried out that genocide without those weapons. Wow.
What would they be used for? What's the situation?
Well, they're not part of the plan for this operation at this time.
It's always about something else, never about what we give to Israel.
Wisely does not do the same for himself. I know there's many leaders in the past who like to take options off of the table without having a full understanding of how things could develop. So again, it's not part of the current plan. But
and don't get it fucked up. Biden's a war criminal. Biden Harris, war criminals, period. End of story.
Not that we know of, Sean, and the Department of War is investigating this matter, and I would just tell you very strongly, the United States of America does not target civilians, unlike the rogue Iranian regime that targets civilians, that kills children, that has killed thousands of their own people in the past several weeks, and uses propaganda quite effectively, and unfortunately many
you would know.
Fallen for that propaganda. So I would
you would know, lady.
The United States of America when it comes to targeting civilians, because that's not something that these armed forces do. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. Prior to the Iran conflict,
the most moral army.
Is the SAVE Act still a priority for the administration?
Absolutely.
Could you just provide an update on the administration's talks with Congress to get the SAVE Act through?
SAVE Act is absolutely still a priority for this president and the administration. focus, of course, of much of the president's time right now is on ensuring the success of Operation Epic Fury, but the president can walk and chew gum at the same time, and he's very much continuing to focus on the issues that matter here at home for the American people, including the passage of the SAVE Act, including on bringing down the cost of living, which is why you'll see the president in about an hour and a half at the Ratepayer Protection Pledge Roundtable, where he will be sitting with big tech companies, with AI companies, who are building in communities across the country and have pledged to pick up the cost of the electricity tab in these small towns and communities across the country, which is a great thing for American consumers. So you'll be hearing from the president, directly on this very important domestic agenda item later this afternoon, and it's something that he mentioned in his State of Union address. So check it off the list as another promise made and kept by this president. Sure, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. I just wanted to get back to Danny's question. So those 4 objectives that you read out do not explicitly include regime change. If those objectives were achieved and the Islamic Republic still existed, would that be an acceptable outcome?
That's a hypothetical question that I'm not going to engage in. Again, right now, the president and the commander-in-chief are focused on executing the success of Operation Epic Fury, which we are already doing so in a very tremendous and impressionable way.
The reason why she keeps saying that, how we're dominating and how we're doing this in aggressive, is because she's lying. We are not doing any of those things.
I can comment on the fact that the president has held many calls with.
She won't tell you that Israel's getting their ass handed to them.
He did speak to Kurdish leaders with respect to our base that we have in northern Iraq. But as for any report suggesting that the president has agreed to any such plan is completely false and should not be written.
President Trump was saying.
It is, absolutely.
Someone from within taking over. Venezuela he saw as a successful model where Delcy Rodriguez took over and had a better relationship. Iran's President Pezeshkian, he took office in 2024 as a relative reformer. He's part of a 3-man council now replacing the Supreme Leader. Does President Trump see him as a potential successor who is more pliable?
Again, that's another hypothetical, and I haven't spoken to the president about this specific individual, so I don't want to get ahead of him. On any assessments that should be made.
Thank you. Yesterday, the president acknowledged that oil prices will be a bit high. As for gas prices here in the U.S., what is the admin doing right now to counter that? I mean, should they skyrocket? Is there a plan to help Americans right now with those higher gas prices? And then a second question. On the rash that was on the president's neck, the White House physician said it was a preventative skin cream that he was using, but why is the president using this cream? What are they trying to prevent? What are they trying to prevent with this cream?
To your second question, I don't have anything additional to add to the physician statement that we provided to all of you on those questions, but I know the statement said that the redness on the neck will dissipate within the next couple of weeks. To your first question about oil prices, thank God we have a president who has exuded American energy dominance over the past year.
Oh
An administration that is wholeheartedly focused on keeping prices.
What's your electric bill like?
Of course, this operation is temporary.
I know this bitch is fucking lying.
Crude oil prices did fall yesterday. They remain stable today after the president announced steps to ensure the stability in global energy markets. Again, those include the DEC offering reasonably priced political risk insurance, and the potential for the U.S. Navy to provide protection for the flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz. It is the president's belief and his economic team's belief that the his economic team's belief that the economy continues to be very strong, it's robust, and will be able to weather any of the temporary impacts of Operation Epic Fury. John.
That's a lie, guys.
John.
That's a lie, guys.
Just to follow up to that, the timeline for making the Strait of Hormuz safe for oil tankers to transport their oil through the strait, what is that timeline, and what can the president do to speed up that timeline?
I don't want to commit to a timeline, but certainly it's something that is being calculated actively by both the Department of War and the Department of Energy. They're working very closely. Both secretaries are in all of the briefings on this subject with the president, and this is again something they're monitoring. And if and when necessary, the United States Navy will provide assistance to escort oil tankers through the strait. Sure, in the blue.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Caroline.
You're not in blue, Andrew. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I guess you are, sort of.
I'll go to you after. You had mentioned about the commercial aircraft being used for the evacuations. What about the use of military aircraft? Would that happen in conjunction with that or subsequent to?
That is something that is definitely underway, and of course we're going to use that in conjunction. We want as many planes, whether they're chartered, commercial, or military, taking Americans out of the Middle East and returning them safely home. So yes, Andrew, go ahead. You're welcome.
At the top of the briefing, you listed a long list of grievances. Government going back to the takeover of the embassy in 79, barracks bombing in the 80s, etc.
That made me laugh.
The administration has laid out
I can tell.
that was supposed to be taken care of by this. And the rationales offered by, say, Secretary Rubio, the President's National Security Advisor, said that the threat was retaliation against American interests from Iran after Israeli strikes. The president says it was his own feeling that Iran was going to attack. Why is it that across the administration you can't say what the imminent
right
United States was that required us to launch this? And also, Prime Minister Starmer told Parliament today that
good question, man.
Allow the use of British bases was that
she's mad.
Satisfied that there was a lawful basis and a viable thought-through plan. Was there an attempt to provide the UK government with a legal basis for these strikes and a viable thought-through plan?
To the first question, I completely reject the premise of your question. You have had the President of the United States, the Secretary of War, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Vice President of the United States, the Secretary of State, and now I am out here today to explain to you exactly what led the President to make the decision to launch Operation Epic Fury. And President Trump does not make these decisions in a vacuum. This decision to
it does not matter how many answers she gives us. She cannot say that we were under imminent threat. No matter no matter how many words she says, she cannot say that we were.
Does pose an imminent and direct threat to the United States of America based on the fact that they are the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. Based on the
I thought all the terrorists live in Gaza. I'm sorry, but I do believe that I was told that all the terrorists were in Gaza.
Alongside their navy, so that inside their country they could continue to create nuclear weapons and nuclear bombs, which would of course pose a risk to Americans in the region, and even Americans
could pose a risk.
Another point on this is the president found that through these extensive, exhaustive, failed negotiations with Iran, that they were hell-bent on death and destruction. So again, the president president was not going to be just another president on a very long list who sat back and stood by and passed the buck of this direct threat to the next administration. The president had a feeling, again, based on fact, that Iran was going to strike. Our assets in the region, and he made a determination.
That's a lie.
Operation Epic Fury based on
That's
all
a
of
lie.
those reasons, and I would like the media to actually report on all of them, rather than just picking sound bites from one person in this administration and saying, oh, they're contradicting the other person. No, again, these decisions are not made in a vacuum. They are made by the president's feeling that Iran was going to strike the United States and our assets, and was going to strike the United States and our assets in the region, and he was not going to sit back and watch that happen. The determination was made that the president was going to strike first alongside Israel, and that has obviously been proven to be the right decision and an effective one at that.
That's not what Rubio said. If I were you, I'd go back and check.
Caroline, a two-part question for you. First, has the president spoken with the family members of those U.S. service members that were killed? Second, given what you've outlined throughout this entire briefing, I mean, the United States has sunk a bunch of Navy ships.
I said she's dressed like a pilgrim.
What can Americans expect the goal to be moving forward now that the U.S. has accomplished all of this? What is victory, given we've even taken out Iran's supreme leader? That was an explicit goal.
Again, victory will be determined by the commander-in-chief once the goals and the objectives that we have repeatedly laid out are fully realized. Again, we just in the next few hours will be achieving that dominance over the skies, which means the United States military will be raining missiles and weapons down on Iran to hit these specific targets that have been
civilians that are innocent. Just so you know. Just so you know.
Has the U.S. posture changed in regard to a nuclear North Korea, given the latest strikes on Iran, and the fact that the stated goal is to make sure that Iran is not a nuclear country?
I don't have any change in position with respect to North Korea today.
Thank you. A quick follow-up.
To North Korea today.
Thank you. A quick follow-up. There's been reports that Ali Khamenei's son has been elected as the next supreme leader. Does the administration think that he is a part of the same regime as his father? Would they like people in the country to rise up and get him out of power?
There's reports he's been elected, or that he's assuming to be elected. One of the likely options.
Pardon me, what was that?
That he's one of the likely options, or that he has been elected. Okay, so we'll wait to confirm until someone actually is elected.
You just mentioned that the president is going to attend the dignified transfer for these families.
I like her.
Given what Secretary Hegseth said this morning, is it the position of this administration that the press should not prominently cover the deaths of U.S. service members?
No, it's the position of this administration. That the press in this room and the press across the country should accurately report on the success of Operation Epic Fury and the damage it is doing to the rogue Iranian regime that has threatened the lives of every single American in this room. If the
it's not a success, and nobody in this room was threatened.
In this room, and so we can all be very grateful that we have an administration, and that we have
nobody should be grateful.
Forces who are willing to sacrifice their own lives for the rest of us in this room, and for every American across the country, and for every troop across the country, and for every troop that is based in the Middle East. That's what these.
Hegseth was complaining that it was front page news about these 6 service members who were killed.
That's not what the secretary said, Caitlin, and that's not what the secretary meant, and you know it. You know you are being disingenuous. There is not.
She's getting
we've
mad.
Never had a Secretary of Defense who cares more.
Get through where tragic things happen. It's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad. The press only wants to make the president look bad.
I love her.
The press does of U.S. service members under every president.
The press does only want to make the president look bad. That's a fact. Listen to me. Especially you, and especially CNN. And the Secretary of Defense cares deeply about our war fighters and our men and women in uniform.
That's a fucking lie.
All across this country to meet with them, to connect with them, and your network has hardly ever probably reported on that. You also had the chairman of the Joint Peace Chiefs, Chairman
always, especially Caitlin.
alongside the Secretary at the Pentagon this morning, again expressing his condolences to these families. And I just told you that the President of the United States will be attending their dignified transfer. So please,
they weren't, because I saw them. They weren't, because I saw them, and he was not there.
We expect you to cover that as you should. We expect you to cover that as you should, Caitlin. But you and your network know that you take every single thing this administration says and tries to use it to make the president look bad.
He does look bad. He doesn't need help.
Covering troop deaths is trying to make.
If you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President Donald Trump, I think the American people would tend to agree, and your ratings would tend to disagree with that as well. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. On the school strike, back to that for a minute. I understand that the U.S. does not target civilian infrastructure. That's what you said. Can you say that there is any evidence right now that it was not a U.S. strike? And then also, you didn't mention Israel in that. Is there any assessment about Israel's potential likely role in that, if at all?
Again, the Department of War is currently investigating this matter. But again,
nobody's investigating anything. It was, in fact, an Israeli strike that killed all those young girls at that school. That tracks. You shouldn't question it.
Separate issues, Caroline. First, what can you tell us about the military operation in Ecuador?
It's already been proven that it was an Israeli strike, y'all.
Invoking the Defense Production Act to boost munition stockpiles while we are in this conflict.
It's not something I've heard the president consider, but as you know, the president has been in pretty direct correspondence and public correspondence with defense contractors, asking them to aggressively speed up their manufacturing of American-made weapons, which again are the best in the world. With respect to Ecuador, I would point you back to the statement released by the U.S. Southern Command on March 3rd. Ecuadorian and U.S. military forces launched operations against designated terrorist organizations. These operations are a powerful example of the commitment of partners in Latin America and the Caribbean to combat the scourge of narco-terrorism. And together, we are taking decisive action to confront narco-terrorists who have long inflicted terror, violence, and corruption on citizens throughout the hemisphere. And with on that, I would also add that this weekend, I'm pleased to announce the president will welcome the heads of state from 12 nations across our Western Hemisphere in Miami, Florida on Saturday. The point of this newfound Latin America summit is to promote freedom, security, and prosperity.
Oh my God, the audacity.
Will be in attendance: Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador.
We're bombing Ecuador, just so you know.
Paraguay, Trinidad and Tobago, and maybe some others as well. And the president will be speaking with the leaders of this country who have really formed a historic coalition to work together to address criminal narco-terrorist gangs and cartels and counter illegal and mass migration into not only the United States, but the Western Hemisphere, which remains a key and top priority of this president. Thank you very much, everyone, and you'll see the president yourselves in an hour.
Thank you, Caroline.
It was proven days ago that was an Israeli strike that oh God help us all, that took out that school. The reason that we're in Iran is because of Israel. That I don't know. They can get up there and lie all that they want, but that is in fact why we're there. If you can't remember the same rhetoric that was used for Gaza concerning schools, hospitals, what did they say? Hamas lines all the schools, and they're in the basements of the hospitals and the schools. You're hearing the same rhetoric toward Iran. I heard the same words used to justify bombing hospitals and schools. It's propaganda. It's lies. It's lies. They are doing that because that's what they do. They target innocent civilians in hospitals and schools. They attack the most vulnerable. I want to remind everybody how many children were in Gaza. Children in Gaza made up 50% of Gaza's population of 2.1 million. They used drones to hunt children in the streets. How many videos do you have to see of children being taken out? This country has never fought a noble war. We are, in fact, the terrorists. And the only proof you need is history. My views and what got me here, I am a leftist. Do you know you may consider me radical? A radical leftist. But do you know what radicalized me? Okay. What radicalized me was the day that I found out that we were funding a genocide. When that realization washed over me, I was done. The most powerful country in the world who claims to be righteous and saving and all encompassing of freedom, committed a genocide. That's how I got here. And if more people would arm themselves with the actual facts, instead of following every word told to you by this administration, you might wake up one day and find yourself pissed off too. Lord knows you have enough to be mad about, man. Well, this has been a day. Thank you for being my emotional support chat through the White House press briefing. I needed that. Kind of kept me grounded. I didn't have to crash out by myself. I had a little company. And now I'm gonna go and take a few minutes to myself before the bus pulls up. I will not be spending tomorrow with you. You can guarantee that. Whatever is said about me throughout the evening, just remember when you hear it, I don't give a fuck at all. No, it was feeding you. I definitely needed that. I definitely needed it. Oh, little baby. What's a little baby? They talk bad about my dog, farmer. They talk bad about my dog. How can they talk bad about that? How can they talk bad about my dog? About my dog? But they did, motherfuckers. Alright, I'm gonna go make beef stroganoff. You guys have a great day. Yeah, they talk bad about my dog, man. Not the dog.